In DC, we're just hoping that you listen.
Welcome, everyone, to the Washington football team preview show brought to you by District Divided. I am Amit, and that is my co-host, KDot. KDot, how are you doing after last week, man? That was insane.
Yeah, no, it was insane. I'm still believing that we are smack dab in the end times. I don't know if you've seen the trailer for that movie, Don't Look Up. I'm feeling very much like I'm in that area. Like I'm just waiting for the impending doom of the world to end, because that game made no goddamn sense. But then if you extrapolate, this entire season has made no goddamn sense as far as the NFL goes.
Yeah, as far as the NFL goes, and we highlighted it last week, it makes no sense. Nothing about it makes sense. So we're going to continue on that trend, of course, and hope that we can beat the Carolina Panthers here, who look to be completely energized by Cam Newton's arrival. So we're going to talk about the Carolina Panthers as we begin this show. Just a brief overview on them. We jump into the injury report, and then we talk about the Washington football team offense led by Taylor Heinicke, who beat Tampa Bay last week against the Carolina Panthers defense. And then we get into the Washington football team defense against the Carolina Panthers offense. We conclude, as always, with our predictions. Now, so let's begin with the Panthers overview. And normally what we do is we talk about all the games. We very briefly touch on all their games. Really, I would say let's just focus on their last one. They beat the crap out of the Arizona Cardinals. The reason their last one, Cam Newton came back. Because until then, they had Sam Darnold. He started hot, then he went cold the moment Christian McCaffrey went out. They are 4-1 when Christian McCaffrey plays, by the way. Fun fact there. So his impact on that team is huge. Then you add the Energizer Bunny and Cam Newton. The energy's fresh. Bank of America Stadium is going to be rocking on Sunday. I picked Washington to beat Tampa Bay last week. I'm nervous about this one. KDot, what are your thoughts on the Carolina Panthers?
All right, just let me pump the brakes just a little bit on what you just said about how, like, the anointing of Cam Newton coming back into town and the energy is what riled them up. Can we also establish that Arizona started Colt fucking McCoy and there wasn't a DeAndre Hopkins?
But they also beat – that's true. That's true. I will give you that. But they also beat San Francisco with that same squad, didn't they?
Yeah, but San Francisco's also a mess. Like, we don't know, right? Like, the extrapolation on it. Yeah, I'll give you that. Carolina came in with a lot of energy last week with the return of Cam. Everybody had, if you have feelings, you had goosebumps when you saw him take off the helmet and do the "I'm back." Like, it was great. Even though he's being a little over the top, he's just being fucking Cam. That's cool, and it was on the road, so it was like, oh, it was a nice thing to see. But, I mean, come on, dog. Like, we've seen enough of Cam Newton over the last 3 years to know he's not what he was, which is why he wasn't on Carolina anymore and why they shipped him on up out of New England. I'm just saying, energy but takes you so far, sir. So far. I don't think everybody's so hyped off that last game, which he didn't start. He didn't even have majority of the snaps with. They used him on a pitch count because he didn't know the offense, which is a whole other thing. This is not the same offense that he ran when he was last in Carolina. And we've seen when Cam Newton doesn't have an entire offseason to learn a playbook, you get the terrible showing you had in New England last year. And it was like, I'm a guy who was rooting for Cam. Look, when his last year in Carolina, I think they went 6-8 when he was a starter. It just wasn't great numbers at all. But the year before that, they were like they had double-digit wins. Like, I like Cam. I think Cam is a capable quarterback. I'm just saying, if I'm going off a track record of what have you done for me lately, it's been a fucking long time since lately that he's done anything that I could look back and say, all right, that was remarkable. I mean, he took his big frame over the end zone or over the goal line. Yeah, that makes sense. It's Cam. He could do that.
Yeah, no, you see, here's the thing. His first 2 snaps, 2 touchdowns. Obviously, that energy is incredible. I agree.
Right.
And it is just one game. Totally agree with that. But, and here's the thing, the energy is most important to me on the defensive side of the ball. It's what it allows them to do. And when I was doing prep for this show, for the Carolina Panthers, their defense is actually frightening. It is really, really good. And whenever you play a really good defense at their place, and this is going to be Cam's first game back at Bank of America, just came out that he's going to get 50 tickets. He's going to give it to people that have never been before. I mean, that place is going to be bumping with that defense, highlighted by Stephon Gilmore. He's been there for 3 games. And the passer rating for opposing QBs, 67. That would be second to the Buffalo Bills right now. So defense is popping. Yards per completion, they're at number 1 at 9 per game. Okay, these guys can play in that secondary. And then you add Hassan Reddick, who has 9.5 sacks. You got Derek Brown over there. You got Brian Burns. Shaq Thompson's been playing great, and they're healthy. That's the difference. Last week, we were talking about how banged up the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were. These guys are all healthy. We were looking at the injury report, and we'll get there in a bit. But the 4 guys on it, all full participants. So that's what gets me nervous is the Cam energy, not so much on the offensive side. He's going to have a limited playbook on him. It's the defense that really
all right.
me.
But also that defense has played the Jets, the Saints coming off of after the week 1 thing that they did against Green Bay. Nobody knew what the fuck was going on with the Saints because then Jameis had a regression game, and he's been up and down, and whatever's been happening to the quarterback position been up and down. They had the Houston Texans, the Dallas Cowboys, Philadelphia Eagles, both losses, then another loss to the Minnesota Vikings, another loss to the New York Giants. Then you had the Atlanta Falcons. They won in that game, 19-13. Atlanta's another team that you just don't know what you're going to get with those guys. I mean, shit, we hung 30 on fucking Atlanta. Anybody can really hang 30 on Atlanta, or we let up 34. It's whatever. Atlanta's just one of those teams we're still not sure exactly where they are. I'm just saying, if we're looking over their breadth of work, the quarterbacks that they played against have not necessarily been lights out throughout majority of the season. Have they played some good quarterbacks? No. I mean, Kirk Cousins.
Agree with you. Yeah,
so, there's that element, right? Then if I'm looking at the defense, they are the number 1 ranked passing defense in the league. But then, once again, I tell you, those who look at the quarterbacks that they played. They're middle of the pack, I think, in rushing. Oh, let me pull up they're 12th in rushing yards. To me, is that if we're looking off of momentum and energy sort of thing, I'll counter that, and we'll get into more of it as far as the energy that I saw from the Washington football team coming out of the last game. I can counter that and say that, this was energy that I saw on a level of which I don't usually see from this team, and especially on that last drive where we ran the ball pretty significantly there too, when everybody knew that we were going to do it. If this is a team where Antonio Gibson and JD McKissic and those guys are going to get their carries, this is a team that can't get ran on. And Taylor Heinicke, I'm sorry, if I'm looking over that and all the quarterbacks that they played, Taylor's shown higher flashes than a lot of the dudes that Carolina defense have played over the course of the year. I'm just saying Carolina right now, like a lot of these other teams, we don't know what they have. We're just not sure. But the way that they started out the season just kind of being hot, they go 3-0, then they've just lost.
Yeah, but that's all with Sam Darnold. So here's the other thing. I think for me, I was looking at the schedules, and this is very reminiscent of we have that emotionally charged victory over the New York Giants. First time we'd ever beaten Daniel Jones, right? Mm-hmm. Amazing. We're feeling good. We're 1-1. It is early on in the season. And then we got our asses kicked in Buffalo on the road against a defense that statistically looks very good. There was no true merit to the Buffalo stats at that time, right? Because they had only played 2 games. And so once, to me, you get to the point where, yes, Carolina has not played the strongest quarterbacks. But the point is, they've gone up against the teams that they've had to go up against, and I think that defense has done pretty damn well. They're also second in sack percentage. They can get after you. That's what concerns me, because Taylor is really, really good at getting creative, and he's going to have to. He's going to have to against this team, and he's also good with time, as any quarterback would be. Taylor thoroughly impressed me in that game against Tampa Bay, and that final drive, my goodness. I mean, the throw to Adam Humphries on that third down, like the dude proved he can be a starter if he can maintain that level of consistency. As you guys know, I have been high on Taylor Heinicke all the way through. I do have some doubts now that we're seeing the whole body of work, but he could definitely do something here. But I do like, that you're telling me to pump the brakes, and I also still can't help but feel that energy, because the thing about Cam Newton, he belongs in Carolina. And again, I am worried about the energy plus the defense. That's where I'm at.
He's gone for a reason. They wanted to move on. And the thing is that, like, at the end of the day, I get it, dude. They have the ownership change. They have Ron Rivera's out. They have all these things that kind of put it in a situation. But look, here's what I'm most surprised by hearing you talk right now. The fact that you had me blown up on gas against Tampa Bay, and now you're afraid of Cam fucking Newton and the Carolina Panthers, is insane to me. It's fucking ridiculous to me.
It's the nature of this team. You know that. You've been a fan forever. You can beat a really good team, and then the very next week, lay an egg.
But I'm saying, like, if I'm looking through the teams that Washington played up until this point, we've lost to the teams that are better than us. Like, that's the thing. We've lost to the teams that were better than us. Like, even before going into the season, we all said, yo, we got a fucking murderer's row before that bye week. And then whatever happens, we have the division games at the end that determine everything. Because everybody in NFC East is going to be beating up on each other at the end of the year. If I'm looking through those four games, I mean, shit. New Orleans, understood. That could have went either way for us, right? If I was looking at before the season. Kansas City, I had as a loss. Green Bay, I had as a loss. Denver, once again, one of those games that you just don't know because I thought we were kind of even keel as far as the way that the defense started looking after a certain point of the season. I'm just saying, like, overall, if I'm looking, I see a Carolina team that's lost to a lot worse teams than we have. And it's just, I don't know. If you heard me speak last week or the other week, it's like we fucking role reverse. I don't want to be so high on this team based on what I thought going into the Tampa Bay game. It hasn't changed that much for me. I'm hoping the Tampa Bay game was the lightning rod there for this team. But as I said, I think on the other podcast, I'm not taking anything from that game and extrapolating it out, really, because of how weird the season has been. I don't know what that game means yet. I wanted to say that it means that this is the tide change for this team. We've turned it on, as we usually do when we go on a playoff run, right? We always start the season, it looks like everything's going to be over, and then all of a sudden it's win 5 in a row, win 7 in a row, or we don't go, right? I can look back at the 2 Joe Gibbs playoff runs. I can look at, I think, one of the Kirk Cousins playoff runs. We usually do that. And last year, we were 2-7, then we fucking just go on a run. Get to 7-9. And the thing that helps us is all the division games that are happening at the end. I'm just saying, Cam Newton's not the fucking second coming of Christ. Or what it is you have Taylor Heinicke say is the God of Charlotte. Okay, it's fucking Charlotte. Who gives a fuck?
Okay, points taken. All the points taken, and I think you make very valid arguments there. And if you do look at our schedule, I can understand wanting to be high on it because we would be playing against these Carolina Panthers who are beatable. As much as I'm, going with the energy, they are beatable, certainly. And then you have Seattle at home. We saw what Russ looked like. He just laid an egg over in Lambeau. He might, at that point, you'd think he'd be more himself, but who knows? It's at home.
Broken finger on his throwing hand. Just hard.
Throwing hand. And then Las Vegas and then the 5 division games. So there is reason to be hopeful here. So, KDot, you are 100% right. Why don't we jump into the injury report? Because it sounds like we're beginning to break the game down as well. So just to that injury report, it's very, very short in terms of people that are probably going to miss the game. Curtis Samuel, as we know, probably not going to play. Did not practice Wednesday, did not practice Thursday. Probably going to be a DNP today when you're seeing this. And then Ricky Seals-Jones is the big one. He hasn't practiced 2 days in a row with a hip injury. Now, Logan Thomas doesn't look like he's coming back, at least not this week. So that's going to leave you John Bates and Samis Reyes. And Samis Reyes, I actually think, offers a unique opportunity here in a good way. So why don't we go ahead and, oh, by the way, the Carolina Panthers, everyone's healthy. Everyone's a full participant in practice. They've got basically no one on IR other than JC Horn, their first-round pick. But, they're fine. They're fine. So why don't we jump into the breakdown of the Washington football team offense against this Carolina Panthers defense. KDot, why don't we start with you?
All right, hold on. I spaced out for a second because I got upset at something you said, and I don't even remember what you said now.
Washington football team offense.
Versus the Carolina defense.
With Taylor Heinicke. Go ahead.
Gotcha. All right. This is going to be another one of those games where you're hoping that the Washington football team gets it done on the ground, or at least can establish that sort of run game that we know we have the talent to do. It just hasn't necessarily been something that we've done week in and week out. Because, if you look as far as our team overall, I remember last week looking to see if we had any 100-yard rushers. We haven't, and we still didn't have one after last week. I think looking at Antonio Gibson, 24 carry for 64 yards, 2 TDs. It was just a ground and pound game. But I think that's what you got to have to do is you have to continue running the football, which is what I did appreciate with Washington, that they never stopped running the ball last week. And I think you have to do that. Carolina's defense is not as good as Tampa Bay's against the run. there is going to be potentially more opportunities for this offense to get the ball moving on the ground. And with that comes ball security, which is always an issue for Antonio Gibson out of the backfield, where he's got the body, he's got the frame of a fucking power back, and yet he still kind of plays like a receiver every once in a while. So, I mean, it's just one of those things. As long as he keeps the ball secured, that's what they have to do. You got to continue to run the ball. Because you're right, Carolina's defense, especially against the pass, is damn good. And if Taylor Heinicke does Taylor Heinicke things, they could very easily be one of those games where he throws a pick or two, or if we're down big, you're just throwing it up there, and then we're in a game where we just can't come back from. So I love that Scott Turner and Ron Rivera stuck with the run regardless of anything last week. I think that has to be the same recipe this week. Stick with the run. Do not go away from the run. Stick with it. It helps Taylor out a lot with the play action, with getting him on some of the bootlegs. It just gets these guys moving. Not to mention, you see a lot of Taylor on those crossing routes. When he's got the opportunity, they were pointing it out, his fakes, his pump fakes, his play action fakes are some of the best in the league. He sells the fuck out of it, and it helps hardcore. I love seeing that. Usually you get that from the backup guys or the guys who've gotten a lot of practice reps or with the practice team because they really sell it. I think that if you continue to run the football and have Taylor working off the play action stuff, it'll give us an opportunity. We just have to stick with it. And we've got to score and score early.
KDot, if I could say what my keys to the offense versus their defense are, it's exactly what you said. You have to stick to the run, arguably even more so than last week. Because, again, when you're on the road, what travels? A running game and a defense. Those are the things that travel more than anything. And to slow down their energy that I'm hyping up like freaking crazy right now, and I'm aware of that, running the ball helps with that big time. We're going to need a number of long drives. Similar, it doesn't need to be 10 minutes. You don't need to set an NFL record for the season in order to do this, but like 6-7 minutes of chewing clock. And if you can end up with 7 instead of 3 in those situations, you can really take the crowd out of the game, which I think is the energy that I'm talking about. You take them out of the game, it's anybody's game at that point. As for Taylor Heinicke, this one's hard because I want him to be himself, but missing Ricky Seals-Jones in the passing game potentially is huge. Right, because he's used to targeting Ricky Seals-Jones. He's used to targeting Logan Thomas. John Bates is going to have a role. He's going to have a significant role in this game, depending on how much he knows. He's a rookie, but I think they're going to. He didn't
look great last week.
That's the thing. But I do think they're going to try and get him involved because Carolina may not expect that.
They also do not trust Sammy Reyes. Sammy Reyes is not trusted.
He's going to only be a blocker when he's in the game. And he's a good blocker. So that's where I was sort of thinking it's the advantage of Sammy Reyes in that run game. Because I do think while he may miss 1 or 2 blocks, you don't always have to run his side. Run a few to the other side. Let him, I'm an NFL coach, by the way, and make sure that, he can sustain a couple blocks once you see it, run his side. Because he is so strong. I mean, he's a physical specimen, Sammy Reyes, and we're a Sammy Reyes podcast, as you know. I'd love to see him shine in that run game, maybe even grab a catch, honestly. But it's going to be difficult without our main 2 tight ends, So hoping to run the ball. When you're passing, you got to protect it. Just keep us in the game. Honestly, keep us in the game because this defense with Stephon Gilmore, with A.J. Boye, with, Shaq Thompson, Dante Jackson's had a good year. It's going to be difficult to sustain a solid passing game. And Taylor, so far on the road, his only real good game has been against Atlanta, and that is a putrid defense. But you look at it against Denver, a winnable game, didn't show up. Against Buffalo, his touchdown was into Antonio Gibson, who had like 70 yards of yak on that. It was a screen. It was a perfect call by Scott Turner. So to help Taylor out, run the damn ball. So I think we're in agreement there, KDot.
We are. I think the only other thing I'd like to add is, especially after last week, we need to convert in the red zone. The field goals are not enough, and we have to convert. And I think that was what was so special about that last drive is that everybody knew what we were going to do, when we were going to do it, and we did it anyway. You need that kind of mentality, that attitude coming up into this game. My biggest key to the game last week for Tampa Bay was that we had to be in it early. You got to stick with it early. You got to start out strong. And we did for the most part. Even the field goals, to a certain degree, the more they happened, it was already like, all right, well, we're kind of just tempting fate here. We've got to convert. We have to convert into touchdowns. And that, I think, comes in a big piece of the running game. And DeAndre Carter, keep that motherfucker on the field as long as you possibly can.
Yo, how good has DeAndre Carter been? Like, not only he should be in the Pro Bowl. I'm just going to say that right now. As a returner, certainly, because I think he's first in a number of categories in the NFC. But as a receiver, he's pretty damn good too. Like, each time I see him, I have faith in him as a wide receiver, not just as a kick returner. I like DeAndre Carter a whole lot.
Yeah, I need to see what his snap count is compared to production. Because it feels as though every time I see him on the field, something good is happening.
You know what? I'll pull that up while you're talking about the defense versus the Carolina offense. Why do we transition now? Washington football team defense now, of course, I didn't say it in the injury report because you probably saw it, but Chase Young does have an ACL injury. It's torn. So he's out for the season. Montez Sweat is still on IR. So arguably our top two pass rushers, not going to be there. God bless Jonathan Allen. He was unbelievable. He looked like Aaron Donald this past Sunday against Tom Brady. And he's probably the biggest reason why we won that game. I love Jonathan Allen. God bless you. Keep balling. But Washington football team defense against the Carolina Panthers offense. KDot, go ahead. I'm going to pull up DeAndre Carter's snap count from last week while you're doing that.
It's drink and eat everything. Do everything you guys did last week. We need to keep the exact same routine. And then come out and do the same thing against Carolina is what we need from you guys. Look, the Washington defense has been good against the run all year. Regardless of who the running backs are, we've been pretty damn good against the run, which is one thing that makes me feel confident as far as Christian McCaffrey coming in and sound. Now, I think that a lot of things that we don't necessarily talk about when it comes to Chase Young is what he does in the run defense. And I think you're going to be missing that as far as the lateral speed that he gives and he offers as far as chasing down guys, especially guys like Christian McCaffrey, who can be very patient when they're taking that ball and they do that one cut and then go. Or a lot of times when they're on like the screen passes and stuff, you got guys like Chase Young and Montez Sweat that are fast enough to chase that shit down. That could be an issue. But I do, once again, love Landon Collins being there at linebacker. I think you're going to see him hanging around Christian McCaffrey a lot, at least near the line of scrimmage. Beyond that, the guy who I've had the most complaints about this year has been William Jackson, without question. And he had one or two really bonehead moves in this last game. I think the face mask call, I believe that we got the 15 yards was against him, or he did something in this last Tampa Bay game, which really aggravated me. But he also had the pick, and he played better than he had played in a very long time. And they come to find out he's actually been hurt the last few weeks. So hopefully, like what happens with a lot of cornerbacks, is that they got to get adjusted to the way that the rest of the defensive backs are working. You got a defensive backfield that was struggling, that's constantly changing. You look at the defensive backs this year compared to last year. You got Bobby McCain in there where you had Jeremy Reeves. You got Cam Curl in there right now. You had Cam Curl last year, but then you had Landon Collins kind of messing around. What position is each playing at one particular point in time? It looks like they finally have it set to where the defensive backs are going to look like. So maybe this is the opportunity that they can start taking off a little bit better than they have been. Because once again, the pass rush hasn't been horrific. It's been that the secondary has been so goddamn wide open you can't get any pass rush there to him. I mean, you can pass rush all day long. If the quarterback can get rid of the ball in 1.5 seconds, doesn't matter what you do. You're not going to get there. And I think that that's been the thing that looked good against Tom, was that Tom didn't have an opportunity to throw the football anywhere because we were covering. And that was good. That was damn good. It was the best job I think the defense has done all year long in that sense.
You absolutely nailed it. I just want to quickly jump in and say you absolutely nailed it, because the problem that we've had is that the secondary has been bad. The defensive line is a lightning rod for the media, for the fans, because they're 4 first-round picks. That's the reason you keep hearing about when the defense is bad, you think it's the defensive line. The first game, yes, it was. The second game, sort of. After that, they were good, and they have been good. The defensive line has been solid. It is the secondary that had not been playing well after the bye. Very encouraging to see William Jackson, Bobby McCain, guys who were not stepping up, grabbing interceptions, deflecting passes, staying with them long enough for Jonathan Allen, who may be the second coming of Aaron Donald, to get to the quarterback. I'm still so high on that performance.
Don't compare any human being to Aaron Donald.
Okay, fine. Okay, well, so on the one hand, I've got the energy of the Carolina Panthers. On the other, I want to prop up Jonathan Allen. I'm not allowed to do either.
Hold on, Aaron. You got to stop. Aaron Donald's in conversation is looking at one of the greatest defensive players of all time. We just got to pump the brakes just a little bit. Okay.
So you're the pump the brakes guy.
I'm the pump the brakes guy.
I'm feeling
sometimes.
everything.
Hold on. I'm pump the brakes guy, but I also say we're in the end times. All right, I'm all over the place. So I get it. I am a microcosm of the NFL season. I make no goddamn sense. Just who I am at this moment.
What a beautiful, beautiful description of yourself right there. A microcosm of the NFL season. By the way, real quick, DeAndre Carter, believe it or not, 49 snaps last week, 67% of the offensive snaps. And against Denver, 49, 70%. It was against Green Bay that the shift occurred because he had 39, 54% of snaps. Adam Humphries was the wide receiver too, primarily in terms of snaps. And I think someone on the coaching staff said, put this kid out there, and he's been great.
That's the thing, is that with the end arounds and stuff that they've been doing with him, it at least keeps the defense honest because he is a burner. He's not the thing.
Almost the Curtis Samuel role. What we were hoping.
That's exactly what's happening. He is budget Curtis Samuel at the moment, and I think he's seeing this as an opportunity. Look, he's not brand new to the league. He played for Houston before this. He's not we might not know DeAndre Carter all that much, but he's not like a rookie. So he's a dude that's been around for a little bit. He could play, and he wants this opportunity. I think with Curtis Samuel being out, even though every time I mention Curtis Samuel, I have to blame the organization for what happened with Curtis Samuel. I'm not going to not do that. They should have not rushed his ass back at all. I think that DeAndre Carter's seeing an opportunity right here, and he's making the most of it. I'm surprised I haven't seen more Adam Humphries, actually, at least. Even if he's on the field, I just haven't noticed. And I know they've been getting Dax Milne more snaps.
And then he fumbles.
That's
going to be a bit.
It's really rough. But,
I just wanted to quickly apologize. I called DeAndre Carter. I was like, play the kid. He's 28. He's been around. So that's on me. I forgot about Houston. Please continue.
DeAndre Carter has been here, been around the league for a minute. Yeah, I'm trying to pull up DeAndre. I think he's been a journeyman.
Play the kid. Play the kid. He's probably listening like, what
play
the
kid.
fuck?
He's your age and shit.
Yeah. Play him.
Yeah, you're like, he's been at Tampa?
Been with Baltimore,
Houston,
he's been with
Philly,
Houston,
Chicago. He's been around.
And
it finally looks like, all right, he might have a home, and he might have a place that he can actually start to shine on an offense. Because you look at it right now, I'm looking at his stats from a reception standpoint. His rookie year, it looks like he had more receiving yards at this particular point than he had going in, but he started twice as many games as he's already started now. He looks solid. I like DeAndre Carter, and I think his decision making as far as taking the ball out of the end zone has gotten better over the course of the year because I did not appreciate what he was doing.
You didn't even like when he took it out against Atlanta and scored.
I didn't think it was the right decision.
But this is your
I just didn't think it was the right
thing
decision.
All over again.
My pot of gold thing. Hey, you got to understand. I worked for Geico, all right, for a while. I worked in insurance. I assess risk. I can tell you if the risk versus reward proposition is one worth taking. Okay, that's my point. That's what I do. I can tell you, the juice is not worth the squeeze there, sir. It's one of those things, even if it works out for you, okay, you didn't make the right choice. It just worked out. And I think people need to understand that just a little bit more and get insurance if you don't have it.
Fair enough. All right, there you go. KDot with the public service announcement, to just get some insurance. Just get some insurance.
Sure.
Let's get back to the Washington football team defense against the Carolina offense. I think you made good points there. The one, if you can, I would dedicate almost all resources to stopping the run. And that includes the quarterback. This is if Cam Newton starts. I mean, it sounds like he's going to, but it hasn't been announced yet. It could be PJ Walker. Christian McCaffrey is the real danger guy, right? If you can find a way to just slow him down, because as KDot said, yes, I've been talking about the energy nonstop, but there is a reason that Cam bounced around a little bit. He hasn't looked quite right since about 2018. So force him to play a really, really good game with a limited playbook. I can't imagine they trot him out there with more than 10 to 15 plays. You're probably going to see some repeated plays. So force Cam to beat you from the pocket. If he starts getting outside and we don't have contained on the edges, we're in big trouble. I'll tell you that right now. If they're the ones chewing clock, they're the ones getting the crowd going, and then we have to sustain a drive to respond, I don't have a lot of faith in us to do that. And I do really, again, love Taylor Heinicke. That is just a really hard spot for anyone to be in, let alone Taylor. So you have to make sure you can get off the field, obviously, but make it such that they're in 3rd and 7, 3rd and 6, and then make Cam throw the ball, or PJ Walker, whomever it may be. That's all I wanted to say. Because that energy, if you allow McCaffrey to get going, I can tell you right now, it's a loss. Plain and simple. If McCaffrey eats, it's done. Because then they can do anything they want. Any RPO, any play action, any just drop back at that point, because we're going to spend way too much time trying to stop McCaffrey, who would be averaging 5 or 6 a pop at that point.
I think it's going back to it's learning from the mistakes in the New Orleans game for us, right? Because Alvin Kamara didn't have 100 grounds on the ground. We did overall go past 100 yards if you count the receiving and it ended up being more of a blowout than the final score really shows it was. So they started not doing as much or getting other guys or backups and stuff involved with that. So I think that overall if you look at that New Orleans game, the floodgates open, and it was just hard for us to contain anything past that point. I just think for us, a lot of this game to me is going to be dictated on what it is we do out the gate. We have to start this game strong. Same way let's take Tampa Bay game. I don't know about you, but when we had that 3-and-out against Tom, I peeked up in my chair like this. I was like, oh, that doesn't look like us. We don't stop guys on the first drive. I think that to me is one of the biggest things, is that you can see on this team when these guys have been able to methodically go down the field and score on us every fucking first drive, it changes everything. And I think that if you get the ball back to the offense in fairly good field position off that first drive, the energy level is different. And I want to eliminate the energy from them. All right, you're right. This might be an energy game. And I'm the one that says that Washington's energy off of what happened last week, beating the fucking Tampa Bay Buccaneers in hellified fashion with a drive that was one of the greatest we've ever seen, is a moment. It's a statement. Cam Newton coming back to Carolina is a moment, is a statement there for him and what he wants to do for his career. And I get it. And he's got his boys that want to have his back in this situation to get him where it is need to go. One of these teams need to eliminate the energy of the other team and keep riding that high. I'd like to think that what happened on us was much more of a team-oriented, get everybody involved sort of thing, compared to Cam Newton just trying to save his career at this point, because everybody knows he's not the future in Carolina. This is where we're at. And this to me is one of those make it or break it for the rest of the season type things. We need to win these games going into division games, especially when you got a Dallas team that's riding high and looks like they're just going to run away with it on their way to the fucking Super Bowl.
And I tell you what, I mean, we haven't even talked about the wild card potentially. The Panthers are currently in there at 6th, 7th place at 5-5. We're 3-6. This is a huge, huge game.
Yeah.
So I mean, we win this and we're a game back. Like that's it from the playoffs with 5 division games to go. And we would have gotten a win over a mobile quarterback, which makes me feel a hell of a lot better about going against Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles when we talk about
Russell Wilson next week.
And Russell Wilson. So this game, we cannot understate how huge this is and what that win against Tampa Bay has set us up to do potentially. So why don't we get to the predictions? KDot, Carolina's favored by 3.5 points. Typically when you see a home team favored by 3, Vegas is more or less admitting this is a toss-up. We don't quite know what to do. Yep. They give them an extra half point as juice. And the over-under is 43.5 points. As always, I would like a score and winner.
All right, I got them going under the 43. That's another thing. Is that this to me seems like it might be one of the ugly games, right? Like it just feels like it might just be an ugly one. Like a lot of ground game, a lot of stalled drives, a lot of defenses playing stout at particular points in time. So I'm going to go with 20 17. Washington over Carolina. I just think the energy level is on our side more than it ends up on Carolina's side by the end of it. I want to think that win last week meant more. I want to think that. I want to be able to look back on that Tampa Bay win and extrapolate it over the rest of the season. So this is almost wishful thinking or a hopeful prediction as far as what this team could or could not do for the rest of the year.
Now, I want you to be right. So KDot said 2017 Washington. I really want you to be right because, again, the amount of confidence that would fill in me about this team, I'm immediately switching from looking at the draft to looking at the 7th seed, the 6th seed. And who knows, if Dallas sustains a couple injuries, we could be right there again, similar to last year. For me, I think Carolina in this spot, we talk about energies against each other. I give it to the home team. I think if this were at our place, I actually do think we win. But I think home matters here. And I think at Bank of America, we're just going to find it a little too difficult. I've got Carolina 20. So I've got the winning score at 20 as well. Washington 16. So Carolina just barely covers. I've got 20-16 Carolina. That being said, if we get out of the gates fast, like you're saying, KDot, if we do manage to achieve that, it's anyone's game. And I do think we can absolutely win. I just don't know if I see the fast start. I see a fast one from Carolina. I see them slowing down considerably. I see us getting out a little bit slow. 3 field goals and a touchdown. I mean, I do think we're going to struggle in the red zone, unfortunately, just on the road against a very, very good secondary. And Hassan Reddick has 9.5 sacks on the season. Like, he's 4th in the NFL in sacks. So it's going to be a hard game. It could go either way. As you can see, KDot's got Washington. I've got Carolina. And the margins are 3 points and 4 points. So love to hear what you guys think also. So please comment on this video and let us know what you think. Any other thoughts on this game, KDot, that we haven't already covered?
No, once again, I don't know what we have with this football team just yet, right? Like, I can make a lot of storylines is what my Washington football fan brain wants to do that makes everything make sense. And like, oh, wow, this is the time to go on the run. I don't know. I really don't know. This game to me is just I'm watching with open eyes just to see where is it that the team is kind of is shaking out. And especially on that defense, if Chase Young's not there on the sideline, what kind of energy that defense is playing with. Can Shaka Toney and some of these young guys, Jason Smith-Williams, all those guys. What can these guys do to kind of rally around each other to get the job done and to play with that high intensity that they played in that Tampa game? That's what I'm looking for. I just want them to put together a good performance and we can say we have a reason to look forward to the rest of the games this year.
Yeah, let's see if we can go on and have ourselves a season. And hopefully we can all enjoy a victory Monday together. This was the Washington football team preview show. I'm Amit. That is my co-host, KDot. Thank you guys so much for listening. And again, put your predictions down below too. We've had some fun interacting with the Tampa Bay fan last week in the comment section. I'd love to hear from you too. Enjoy the game and let's pray for that victory Monday. KDot, I'm hoping you're right. I will say one thing. We've been talking a lot about DeAndre Carter. If he houses one on a kickoff, we definitely win. I'll tell you that right now. That's no better way to silence a crowd than a kickoff return for a touchdown.
That'd be amazing. That would be dope.
Go ahead and say that right now. So DeAndre, if you're listening, 1, I'm sorry for calling you a kid. 2, please house one this coming Sunday against Carolina. We will see you guys next Friday at 2 p.m. as we always do.
Peace, guys.